Good evening. This is Blake Handshake. I'm an American who's been teaching abroad since 2019. If you are from the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Ireland, or the United Kingdom, this video is for you, especially if you want to go abroad and take that leap to teach English. There are a wide variety of reasons as to somebody from one of these 7 countries with a bachelor's degree would want to teach English. Maybe you're not satisfied with your career path. Maybe you just want to change. Maybe you just want to travel the world. Whatever the reason, teaching English overseas is a great alternative for anyone with a bachelor's degree, especially if you're young. So I will get into 8 reasons to why you should strongly consider teaching English abroad. The first reason as to why you should go overseas to teach English is that you get free housing. Now let me make that clear. You have to pay for your electricity and your water and your gas, but in both experiences, in South Korea and currently in China, you get free housing and the rent is covered by the school. All you have to do is take care of the place and not destroy it, not break anything. As long as you don't do that, all you got to do is pay for utilities. Now, there is the option of, if you don't want to take the house provided, you can get your own house, your own apartment. And the cool thing about this is that if you choose this option, the school will give you a monthly stipend to assist you with rent. So let's say your rent is a certain amount of money. They'll give you a certain amount and you pay the difference. So let's say you live in an area that's not too expensive. Even though you're paying a little bit of money out of pocket, it's still a win-win for you. So that's a great option. Getting free housing or getting assistance with your housing and not paying much rent is a great option. Reason number 2 as to why you should consider going overseas to teach English is the infrastructure is so nice to the point where you don't have to have a car and you could use a public transportation. In South Korea, in China, and even in Japan. I've not lived in Japan, but I visited. In all 3 of these countries, you don't really have to have a car. If you live in a big city, you could use the subway system, you could use the bus system. It's very inexpensive, very cheap, and the technology is really good. It's very convenient. Where I come from, the United States, the infrastructure is to a point where you actually have to have a vehicle. And you have to have a car. And if you don't have a car, you got to use the public transportation that's provided. And the United States is notoriously known for having public transportation that is not safe. And that's a nice thing about living overseas as an English teacher. I don't have a vehicle. When I was in America, I sold my car, and ever since I've been abroad, I've not had a car, and I get to use the public transportation, I get to walk everywhere. And that's a nice thing about living abroad, is that you can walk, and it's safe. I remember the very first day I was in Korea, 6 years ago, and I remember seeing women walking alone at night. And I very quickly realized that here in Asia, it is safe. Now, obviously, anywhere in the world has crime. Anything bad can happen to you anywhere. But compared to the United States, compared to Western countries, it is much safer here in China, much safer in Korea. There's cameras everywhere. If someone does something bad, it's going to be very easy to catch the person doing the act. So another reason I strongly recommend you go abroad to teach English is you could walk, have a very healthy lifestyle by walking everywhere. It's not inconvenient to walk, and the public transportation and the infrastructure is so convenient that you don't need a car. Obviously, you can get a car if you want one, but you get the point I'm saying. Reason number 3 as to why you should go overseas to teach English is that you can save a lot of money. You can save a lot of money. Now, us English teachers, we aren't rich, but think about it. Your housing is covered. You don't have to pay for car insurance. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay a mortgage. Okay? With all these expenses that you don't have to pay, you can save so much money, even with the salaries we have. With the time we're living in, it is very easy to send money home. Okay? I get paid in the local currency of the country I'm living in, and I could send that money home to my bank account. You could save money for the purpose of saving. Maybe you just want to save, and eventually retire. Maybe you just want to save just for the purpose of saving. Maybe you just want to save money because you want to invest that money later. Regardless of the reason, you could save money, and teaching English overseas makes it very easy to do that. There are several instances of people, they teach English abroad for a certain amount of years, they go back to their home countries and they buy houses. And even if you don't want to save money, let's say you're in student loan debt, you can go overseas to teach English for a few years and pay off your debt. And you're debt-free from student loans. I met someone in Korea who went overseas to teach English just for 1 year. He paid off his loans and he went back. So saving money is a good thing. It's difficult to save money in today's world, all the expenses, all the things happening. And if you teach English abroad, saving money becomes much more easier. Speaking of saving money, you could also get bonuses for when you complete your contract. So whether in Korea, whether you re-sign at your school or not, as long as you finish your contract, you get a bonus of the monthly salary of whatever you got. So let's say you get paid, I don't know, $2,000 to $3,000 a month. Let's say in Korea you get paid $2,500 US dollars a month. After you finish your contract, whether you stay on another year or not, you will get that money deposited into your bank account tax-free. You also get the same in China, but from what I've heard, you only get this bonus if you re-sign at the school. Maybe I'm wrong, this is what I've heard. But in Korea and in China, you get a pension. You get a pension, so let's say you stay in a country for a while, you accumulate money, and when you officially leave the country, you report it to immigration that you're leaving at the airport. You get a big stack of cash. So, need I say more? Teach English overseas and get these benefits. Reason number 4 as to why you should teach English overseas is that you have easy access to travel. Okay, you're surrounded by Asian countries. Whether you're teaching English in China, in Japan, in Korea, wherever you're teaching English, you have easy access to traveling. In my time abroad, I got to travel to Malaysia, I've been to the Philippines, I've been to Japan, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Kazakhstan, I've been to Georgia. I've been to Korea and China because I worked in Korea and I work in China right now, but it's so cool to have such easy access to travel. And need I say, many of these countries I've listed are not that expensive. They're inexpensive. Only expensive places are Korea and Japan. And I've developed a passion for traveling. And I think traveling is good for your mental health. And it's so nice to have so many nice memories from traveling the past 6 years. So I highly recommend teaching abroad. You could travel. Whatever Asian country you want to travel to, you can travel there and you can get there within 6 hours. That's the most I've traveled. And you can travel to Japan, which is like an hour-and-a-half flight. You can travel to Korea from China, probably within an hour-and-a-half, 2 hours. So you get the point. Easy access to travel. And I've met so many English teachers over the years who've got to travel so much. And where I'm from in America, traveling to these places is very expensive. So it's a nice benefit. Reason number 5 as to why I should go overseas to teach English is that you become more open-minded. Before I taught English in Korea, I was in my little American bubble. I didn't know much about the outside world. And I got out of my comfort zone. Now, if you're someone who wants to be humble, then being overseas to teach English is a good experience, because whether you're teaching English overseas or even you're just working another job abroad, you are working in a different culture. They speak a different language than you. They have different customs, and you can grow so much. Not only from working, but just living in the culture. You get to learn about different forms of etiquette. You learn what's rude and not rude outside of your country. You get to open your mind. And you also have the opportunity to learn different languages. When I was in Korea, I got to learn a decent amount of Korean. Now, I wasn't an expert. I even wasn't intermediate, but I was upper beginner level, and it made my experience much better, that I was able to understand what was being said to me, and I was able to communicate basic things most of the time. And right now I'm learning Chinese, trying to learn Chinese. So you get to also have easy opportunities to learn the language. So working in another country will open your mind. Living in the country will open your mind. Trying different foods will make you more open-minded. It's very positive. Now, obviously, not everyone who lives abroad is open-minded. There are a decent amount of teachers I've met who like to complain and whine all the time, and I just think to myself, why are you still here? Why are you still an expat? Why not go back to your country? But if that's not you, if you don't like to complain, and if you just like to take what's coming to you and just adapt and learn, then it'll be a great experience for you. Where I'm from in the United States, most Americans don't really travel abroad. If they do travel abroad, it's just nearby places like Mexico or the Bahamas. But they don't really travel abroad to different continents. And so therefore, many Americans are not that open-minded. They don't know anything else outside their bubble, their way of thinking. And I hate to say this, but I'm sure most Americans, many of them don't even know what Kazakhstan is and where it is. Not that I'm bragging, but I'm just grateful to have this opportunity to just be more open-minded, to see the world from a different perspective. Another reason to why you should go overseas to teach English, reason number 6, is that You have time to figure your life out. You can renew your visa as many times as you want to, once a year. And if you don't want to teach English abroad as a career, you don't want to do it for more than 1 decade, you don't want to do it forever, then you have time to figure your life out. I'm very grateful for this time I've had to teach English abroad the past 6 years, because now as I think about my life and what I want to do, I'm starting to have some sincere vision for what I want to do for the future. And it'll take some time to do it, a few more years. And my wife and I are pursuing these goals. And so I'm grateful that as I'm teaching, I can pursue some goals. And so there is no pressure to leave. As long as you're not doing stupid things and doing things you shouldn't be doing. You could stay in the country, you can go to another country and teach English, but you get what I'm saying. You have that time to figure life out while you're pocketing money, while you're traveling, and while you're working to teach English. The sixth reason as to why you should teach English abroad is healthier lifestyle. I get to walk everywhere and it's not inconvenient. And speaking of health, you have affordable health care in South Korea and in China. Where I'm from, the United States, I'm sure you might know this, but in case you don't, healthcare is extremely expensive. That's a whole nother video for another time. Extremely expensive, and for many people who are not wealthy, it's very it's very difficult, and people go into debt, and it's terrible. But in China, I've gotten my wisdom teeth removed. One of my wisdom teeth removed. I've been to the doctor several times because my wife was pregnant several months ago. We had a baby here, and I go to the doctor sometimes, my wife goes sometimes, my son goes sometimes, we get checkups, get things done, and it's extremely affordable. Extremely affordable, not just for medical work, but for dental work too. And in Korea, it's not as affordable as China, but it's not as unaffordable as the United States. So you get healthier food here too. Where I'm from, the United States, unless you're rich and you can afford going to farmers markets and buying food at those places, your only option is going to the supermarket. And unfortunately, almost the majority of the food in supermarkets is full of ultra-processed foods loaded with chemicals and preservatives. Now, here in China and in Korea, obviously there's processed food, but it's not everywhere, and it's much easier to find healthier food in the supermarket, anywhere. Food is healthier here, so I'm grateful to have the opportunity to eat healthy, okay, to have good medical care, to have good dental care, and my wife and my family and I are just, for now, as long as we're here, we get to have good food and good medical care. So that's a plus. The eighth and final reason as to why you should teach English overseas is dating. If you're from a Western country like myself, you're probably sick and tired of all this toxic feminism, all this toxic man shaming. Men are bad, women are superior to men. It's nonsense. And if you're tired of that, the good news is that if you live in a foreign country, you can date local women. And even if you're not interested in dating the local women, you can date other foreigners who are there, whether they're working or studying. So you can date women from traditional countries. Unlike Western culture, in non-Western countries, there is a very small percentage of feminism. Well, the toxic feminism, modern feminism. Instead, most women want to respect their men. They want their men to lead them, and you don't have to deal with competition, your woman trying to overpower you in terms of masculinity. Women from other cultures, non-Western cultures, don't play games as much. Maybe, perhaps people who are university age, you're a foreigner to them, you're exotic to them, and they just want to date you for the experience, date you to learn English, to improve their English, and they just want to get rid of you at a certain point because they won't marry you. But once you're out of the university age bracket, if you're like approaching mid-20s, late 20s, in the 30s territory, then there's like a very small percentage of people who will play games with you, and if they date you, it's for love, 9.9 times out of 10, and they'll want to marry you. So you can date women from non-Western countries, and it's very nice. I met my wife in South Korea, and she's here in China with me, and I'm very grateful. So if the thought of dating someone with traditional values sounds good to you, then get yourself a teaching job overseas and start dating and meeting women and being respectful. Thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions of how you can get a job teaching English abroad, just comment and I'll do my best to help you out. If you are interested in teaching English in China, And I made a video a few months ago explaining step by step on how to secure your teaching job in China. So click on the link below and watch that video. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, as I like to make videos about my experiences abroad and even travel vlogging. So please stay tuned for the next video. I'll see you next time.